we started out in like California, and then we went to Nevada. And so when I would walk out the back of my house, and my mother just loved animals. So
Yeah.
we had, I don't even know if I mentioned this last time, we had camels,
Yeah.
we had horses, llamas, emus,
Yeah.
sheep, goats,
Things that would live in the
ducks.
nice, hot environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird though. I like this own penning. Are we
Is
rolling?
it ready to roll? Okay. Sorry about that.
Office Talk, Stephen and Jimmy, episode 2. I'm in the hot seat, man.
Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks,
Here we
buddy,
are.
too.
Yeah. Thanks for continue to make sure that we can try to start a podcast here. This is fun.
Heck yeah, man.
Hopefully people can enjoy that with us. Thank you everybody for listening in, and hopefully you have something to say as well, so you can join us. Right? We're an open book, right?
Yeah. Heck
So, anyways, let's get going here. Steve, what let's bring us up to speed on where you started and how you end up here today. Right?
Starting with the day I was born. Okay. It's going to be a long day.
It's gonna be a long
You know what's
episode.
funny? I actually remember being born.
That's great.
Nobody believes
Yeah.
me when I say that.
I know,
it was,
right?
It was a C-section because I'm a twin. I actually remember,
know that about you.
just this one brief image, like a picture, like a still image of laying in the I don't know, incubator thingy, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And then I remember the sound of my mom's voice. I remember it going from really muffled to, oh wow, I can hear really, really clear now, and oh, it's cold.
Yeah.
I actually remember that. It's weird to think
That's
about.
pretty
but-
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah. I
but
can't
day
even remember
two,
yesterday sometimes. So
But then I didn't really come online until I think it was like 3. And I remember this is the next memory that I have, like being born, and then the next memory I have is taking a shit on the carpet.
yeah,
Like
right.
that was my. I
Great.
came online that day. Yeah.
I wish I could still do that. I guess sometimes.
No, like I don't know. The reason I guess podcast, like why we talked, with you last time,
Yeah.
kind of why we wanted to do this, and I had the last 20 years, because Rach and I have been married 20 years this next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman, but I think when we started. Well, I'll go back to college. Let me start there. I got in this horrible motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
Disfigured, like collapsed my eye socket, lacerated my face and scalp.
You can't even tell, man. You look great. So.
Thank you, appreciate it. I tore my anterior deltoid off my collarbone. I broke my collarbone. I broke my wrist in a few spots, cracked some ribs. I bit chunks out of my tongue, and it was a bad one. But Rach came with me. We moved to Boise. I always had this entrepreneurial vibe that I don't know. I didn't want to work for somebody. I'm like, I can't work for somebody. I need to be able to do what I want to do and go where we want to go. And so it was just kind of this experimental, what am I going to do for a living,
Yeah.
We got into Amway.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. I should do a podcast just on Amway's, yeah. I won't go off on a tangent right now.
Yeah, right?
But so I got this idea of I like the idea of residual income.
It's entrepreneurial, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually learned a lot of stuff. I learned, reading books and just the whole idea of, I don't know.
Some sort of a structure to make a living.
Yeah. But I loved the idea of residual income. I
Yeah.
loved the idea of, okay, I want to be able to just not work and get a paycheck. I
Yeah.
want to be able to do something and then keep getting paid for it over and over and over and over. Because I tell people that, the first time that your bills are all paid and you didn't do anything and the money just keeps coming in, it is the best damn feeling in the world.
Yeah, the feeling of like I said is, sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but,
you're good.
I remember opening up the restaurant, right? I told my good friend Nick, I was like, you know what? Today, he was my food salesman. He walks through the door, place is a disaster, and I'm like, hey man, I got my first bill today, and we've spent every dollar we had on this project. So.
Was it this plate when you
It
first
was
started?
32nd.
Okay,
So I
okay.
was like, Nick, we don't really have any money to pay any bills. And I was like, I got my first bill. It was like an internet, a Comcast bill or something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, Nick, we got to open tomorrow. He's like, what do you mean, Jim? I was like, I'm shooting for like 2 or 3 days from now.
Yeah.
Because we have to generate some revenue. And he's like, you're not going to be able to do that. And that's a story, like I said, for another day. But I know the feeling of saying, hey, we had a budget for this project. Here we are. And the feeling of saying, hey, let's open the doors and let's try to pay some bills.
If knowing what you know now, the process that you went through, would you, if you could say, okay, I know what I had to go through, all the tough stuff, would you go back and do it again?
I would do it again, over and over again. And nowadays, I think now, I would do it again, and I would do it the same damn way.
Yeah.
You know, hard work.
You wouldn't change anything?
No, because you know when you don't borrow a dime to start a business and you put everything you have into something,
Yeah.
you're taking a chance on yourself.
And that
That's
was the
like
thing.
being an entrepreneur. Right?
Yeah, I think what was hard for me, like just becoming self-employed, because I remember that transition going from, okay, I'm changing my mindset of going from working to I'm actually running a business now. And that was kind of remember that point of, okay, all the money I make, am I gonna sink it back into this business knowing that hopefully I'll get to where I want to be down the road, or am I wasting my dollars? Am I doing this smart?
Yeah.
Like, because I remember when we started, like Rach and I, it was after post Amway, you know, had a couple of jobs, and so I got into the insurance world. I was like, all right, I'll do insurance. I was the state training coordinator for AFLAC for a real short time, and lost that position. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to get into the merchant services business.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. It's brand new. Yeah. And so I got into that, started building customers, started getting, you know, small fractions of a penny off every dollar that would run through their, you know, their point of sale system or their credit card terminals and stuff. And then fast forward, like, gosh, this was 2009. Fast forward to like here, when we moved here. Yeah. I still had all these accounts. Yeah. And I'm working for this guy. And then I think it was December, like 3 weeks before Christmas, I get this letter and a phone call, basically, hey, all the money that you're making, yeah, it's gone now. So, you know, screw you, basically. Yeah. I remember like 3 weeks before Christmas, like, what am I gonna do? I can't buy Christmas presents for my kids. I can't. Am I making the right decision? I've got this gorgeous wife. We're about to go broke. We're $65,000 in credit card debt. Yeah. We just lost the portfolio that we were building. Yeah. She's standing in line at Toys for Tots to get Christmas presents for the kids. That was definitely a low point. Yeah. But then you kind of have to make the decision, like, what am I going to keep doing this? Like, what am I going to do? Should I just go get a job? I remember applying for the military. Before we moved here, I'd applied to be a cop. I thought, well, I'll be a cop. That's you know, get to hold a gun and
you look like a cop. I mean, not to sound like but you probably would have been a great police officer, man.
A sheriff.
Kind of a
well, it's funny because we got here and I got a letter literally 7 days after we got here, and it said, we'd like to offer you a position with the Clark County Sheriff's Department. I was like, shit. I'm like, I can't
Stephen.
move. Yeah, Sheriff Stephen.
Sounds great.
That's a character. Yeah. I'm like, I can't relocate the family. I can't drag them all the way back to where we just moved from. We just got here. So I turn it down and I'm like, okay, what the hell am I gonna do? I'm gonna do insurance because I defaulted back to that. I'm like, I'll go back to insurance. I'll get my insurance license again. I'll start trying to find clients. And I didn't even know, what am I gonna sell? Like life insurance? Am I gonna sell like Aflac again? I'm like, just trying to figure out, like, how do I do this? Yeah. And then it was, I forgot too that I had applied with the FBI when we still lived in Vancouver. Yeah. Completely forgot about it. So I get this random email at one point. They're like, hey, we saw your application. We'd like you to start the special agent program. Yeah. And I was like,
that sounds great.
Oh shit. Like, you recognized me, you saw me, you found me. Yeah. Yeah. And so I thought, all right, I'll entertain it. Yeah. I'll just see where it goes. That's probably never gonna happen. Yeah. So I start phase 1 testing, took this exam. I get out of the building and I get an email as I'm walking to my car, and it's like, congratulations, you've passed phase 1 testing. Yeah. I can't talk about the questions that were on there. I think I signed something saying I wouldn't talk about it, but I was like, holy shit, dude, I just passed phase 1 testing with the FBI. Like, dude, this is like in motion. I'm gonna be a special agent. Like, this could actually happen. So they're like, hey, we'd invite you to go take your PFT. And they kind of gave me a list of, hey, you go do this many push-ups, run this fast, blah, 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 blah. So I did that, failed it, didn't pass it. And I told them, I said, hey guys, I didn't pass the PFT yet. I'll get in shape. Like, just give me a couple of weeks. And so they said, well, hey, that's all right. You know, and I thought, well, maybe that's part of it. They wanted to see if I would be honest about it. Yeah. So they invited me up to Seattle to go meet a panel of special agents. And I'm like, I can't relocate the family again. Yeah. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like,
we just got here.
So I'm like, babe, I mean, who wouldn't want to be a special agent with the FBI? It sounds cool as hell. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I can't do it. I got to give it up. I had to sacrifice it for my family. I'm like, all right, I got to pull out of the process. They're like, okay, well, if you change your mind, let us know. Yeah. Oh, damn, you know, now what am I going to do? I'm broke. I'm filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Yeah. I just gave away this cop position. Yeah. I just said no to the FBI. And I'm like, yeah. And so we just, we got into the Medicare world.
Yeah.
I won't drag you through all that one, but we ended up building our Medicare business, and then I started building this merchant services business on the side. So kind of these two plates I was spinning.
Yeah.
And then just really over the course of the last handful of years, we've just grown and grown and grown and grown. And then we built up enough of residual income. I remember the day I was working for Liberty Mutual. This was in 2019. And probably the worst job I think I've ever had. Nothing wrong with Liberty Mutual, but the manager I had at the time, oh my God, she was so freaking condescending. And I remember knowing that I have fuck you money now.
Yeah.
Like I have enough money, I have a residual income, like I can literally walk away and say, screw you guys, I'm done. And I totally did.
Good
It was
for you.
October 2nd.
Good for you.
I was like, I'm done. Yeah,
That's
we're
the
done.
day you can remember forever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
But it was that transition of, okay, like I felt super, super empowered at that point. Like, all right, I'm officially a business owner and I'm never going to go back to work for somebody.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, back to, I brought up the FBI, but not to jump ahead too far, but to backpedal a little bit. When I applied for the FBI, before I was going to go up and meet this panel of special agents, they said, well, hey, take a selfie, take a picture of yourself.
Yeah.
And so we can see what you look like and make sure that you're not like a 300-pound guy that's, you know, we need to know that you can actually go through the phase 1, phase 2, all these testings. So I did. And I had a buddy named Mark Flory. Mark, if you're watching, buddy, love you, pal. I haven't talked to you in a while, but he's starting this coaching business, right?
Yeah.
And I was his first client. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, what have you always wanted to do? I'm like, I don't know. I've always wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, let's get it started. Like, what would you do to get started? I'm like, I don't know. Like, Google how to get started in acting. Yeah. And I found casting networks, and it was, set up a free profile. So I used that FBI photo, and I posted on there. I'm like, okay, here's a good picture of me. Well, I was tan as hell, because it was like August. So I'd been laying in the sun and just, was wearing a suit. So I was like, okay, it was a good picture. And I get this email like, I don't know, a couple months later, totally forgot about it. This local company that does background work. And they're like, hey, we saw your profile on casting networks. We're doing some Z Nation stuff. Yeah. In fact,
So
Sean,
that-
both you guys were on the Z Nation thing, weren't you?
So that's
No, Caleb was
begs
Sean.
the question now of like that's how you got into acting, correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
so-
it's they were like, hey, we have this part we think you might be good for. It was a Native American, and I was like, okay, so I was tan, so I looked Native American, I guess. Okay,
Great.
So they invited me out. I got started in that, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, dude, where have you been all my life? You know, I love doing this, and then that just kind of evolved into commercials, and then more extra work, and then okay, your first movie, and then we did. The biggest one I've done to date is Recollection. Caden Butera. The movie's not out yet. It will be here probably in a couple weeks. By the time people see this podcast, it will be out.
Awesome.
But, so that was fun. Waking Lazarus, that was another one.
So then for, just getting to know you a little bit better, we've kind of covered, kind of how you got here and, technically how you got into acting, and we'll get into some more of that as more podcasts come. So let's just go back to like right now as we're sitting here doing this podcast, what do you do for a living? Like, how do you describe what do you do for a living? How about that? Yeah.
The elevator pitch. So it's funny because we had that merchant services portfolio. The only reason I even have a merchant services like credit card processing.
Yes.
And the only reason I even have it is because when the guy sent me a letter in December back in 2014 and said, hey, we just basically took your whole portfolio and you don't have any money anymore. Yeah. I did it just to get back at him. I was like, you know what? I hate the industry. I'm like, I don't even want to be in the industry, but I'm just going to do it just to piss him off. Yeah. Just because like you took him from me, I'm going to go back and call all my clients and try to take as many of them back as I could. Yeah. And pretty much all of them were like, yeah, dude, we'll keep working with you.
Yeah, we're relationship-driven people.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. And so I started doing that. And of course, I got a cease and desist letter. And I was freaked out. Like, what is this? Oh, God, are they going to take me to jail? And having no idea what it even was. Yeah. But we did it just out of spite, just to, you're good. Just because. And so I had that portfolio, and that was like the first chunk of residual income. And then it was like, okay, I remember going over with my wife to one of her cousins' houses, and I was talking with her husband, and I'm like, so, what are you doing for a living? We're new in the area. And he's like, I'm doing Medicare. I'm like, Medicare? What do you mean Medicare? I'm like, for old people? Yeah.